Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, for those of you who don't know, I've been engaged in a little debate with Chrissie, and we're debating about this whole show, The Bachelorette. She did a video, I did a response video. She responded to my video, and now I'm doing this reply video. I will include links to all the videos so that you can see them for yourself and judge them for yourself. So for this video right here, I'm replying to her video. And instead of me paraphrasing her arguments or restating them or summarizing them, I'm just going to play the audio to her video and respond to each point that she makes. So let's start.
Abilities. He did a response video to my last review on The Bachelorette, and he hates the show. And there are some things that he said in his video addressing me that I feel should be addressed on my channel for my listeners to hear. Now, I do not have any beef with New Possibilities. I don't agree with a lot of what he says. This is not my first time disagreeing with him, and I'm going to address why in a moment. But the first thing he said is that he didn't think our situation in terms of Black female promotion was so bad that Black women should cling to this show for validation. And he thought it was sad that, we're clinging to this show for validation. And I agree, it is sad. I agree with him on that. I said it before.
So really we could stop right there because that was my key point in my video. That it is sad that some black women, are clinging to this show for validation. They are clinging to this show because they are desperate for any kind of symbol that promotes this idea that the black woman is desirable. So they are willing to settle for a fake ass reality show that promotes interracial propaganda. They're willing to settle for that so that they can feel like they are being validated, so that they can feel like they are desired and that they are valuable. And I think that that's pathetic. It speaks to the sorry condition of our community. Anytime we have to depend on trash like that show in order to receive validation for our women, that tells you what kind of sorry state we're in. This is a show that promotes negative images of black women and black people, period, and black relationships. For all the reasons that I pointed out in my prior video, I will include a link in the cards for those of you who have not seen it. But to summarize it, it's simple. You have a situation where you have a woman, and before I even go any further, I mean, the only reason why I began to look at this show and discuss this show is because Rachel Lindsay, the Bachelorette, basically said that she felt like she was being pressured to pick a black man. Pressured to pick a black man. I mean, the thought of someone saying something like that is just mind blowing. It seems like one's natural inclination would be to pick someone who reflects you, who reflects your culture, who reflects your values. It shouldn't be a matter of being pressured to be with a black man. That should just come naturally. Just like it came naturally for all those other bachelor contestants to pick a white woman, or those bachelorettes, those white bachelorettes to pick a white man. It came natural for them. And correct me if I'm wrong, but all of those white bachelors picked white women. All of those white bachelorettes picked white men. They didn't feel pressured to pick white men and women. That was their natural inclination because they have a natural desire to be with their own, unlike some of our people. And the fact that we would cling to a show like this just speaks volumes to where we are as a people. And the fact that you would have someone like this representing black women talking like this, talking about feeling pressured to be with a black man. And then you have this black woman eliminating all of the black male contestants except for one. On one episode, she eliminated several of them. And I'm going to go into that a little bit later on in this discussion. And then on top of this interracial propaganda, you have this image of the black woman as undignified, kissing dozens of guys, a couple of guys on the same episode. Right after she's done kissing one guy, she's kissing the next guy, you know, engaged in all kinds of intimate type of interactions with these guys. And I know that this is what they do on these dating shows, but that is not a good look for black women. It is not a good look for a black woman to go from one reality show where she got dumped from this one white guy to move on to another reality show seeking love. That is a look of desperation. And then when you look at this interaction with all these men, sleeping with men and at least one man, um, and I may touch on that a little bit later, while saying that she loves all these guys. I mean, that is not a good look for black women. And I don't understand how any rational person can believe that that is a positive image for a black woman and for black people. I don't see how that can be positive. But let's carry on.
I wish, in the perfect black world, I wish we did have black dating shows, with successful black people, male and female. I wish we did have black award shows because I hate to see black women, especially, jumping up and down about Oscar wins and Grammy wins.
And while I see the significance of her bringing up this subject, it is basically a tangential type of argument that's going to lead to a red herring. And I'm going to go into that a little bit later as we go along in this video.
They don't nominate and award black people on purpose. So I feel like it's not something we should desire to be a part of. We should be creating our own. But I also understand that these people work hard. They work hard in the industry. They deserve to be honored for their hard work. And because black people don't have an alternative and we're not trying hard enough to create an alternative, I can still be happy that they won, even though I wish there was something better in place.
And, just to interrupt real briefly, I don't have a problem with people winning Oscars or winning Grammys or anything like that. That is not my contention. That is not my point.
Possibility said on his video that it has to do with me wanting white approval, and that
now she said that I said that it was about her wanting white approval. I listened to my video again. Nowhere in there do I mention her seeking white approval. What I talk about is validation. This idea that, you need somebody or something to validate black women. You need something to promote the idea that black women are desirable. And you're so eager and so desperate for such promotion that you will accept it from anywhere, even if it comes from a fake ass reality show promoting interracial propaganda at the expense of the black man, the black woman, and the black family.
Nothing to do with it. I just like seeing black women being successful and being desired and being honored. And this is why I wanted to talk about this, because it's a really sticky topic, because you're stuck in the middle of wanting something exclusive for black people, but not wanting to shit all over their accomplishments in white media, because at the end of the day, they worked hard, they love what they do, and they're able to live well. And I get it because there's a lot of things that I don't value in terms of what we get from white people. But I still like seeing somebody like Lupita on the cover of Vogue. You know what I'm saying? Just like black people are happy to see this Marvel.
Right. And I don't have any objection to Lupita being on the cover of Vogue. If you all saw my video where I talked about Lupita, I talked about how she was in top fashion magazines and all that kind of stuff. Again, that's not my argument. That's not the point that I'm making in my video. So let's continue on.
Film, the Black Panther, and they'll be happy if black people win white awards for it. And New Possibility supports that movie. You know what I'm saying? And based on his logic, we shouldn't be celebrating anything whatsoever that white media puts out in terms of, black promotion and black people. And I just feel.
See, What you have there is a complete distortion of my argument. And again, it goes back to this point of tangent. This is nothing but a red herring. My argument is not a blanket condemnation of Hollywood or, white entertainment or anything like that. That's not the point of my video. I'm not saying that black people shouldn't be in Hollywood. I'm not saying that black people shouldn't receive Oscars or awards and, from the Grammys and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that black people can't participate in Hollywood or participate in mainstream award programs. That's not my point. My point deals with the messaging. Because if you listen to my video, I even talked about positive messaging in Hollywood. So clearly, my point was not to condemn Hollywood or condemn any kind of involvement in the Hollywood industry or anything like that, because I cited positive examples of black families. For instance, The Cosby Show. I cited The Cosby Show. I cited Good Times as positive examples of black families. So obviously, my message is not a universal condemnation of Hollywood. My condemnation is of the message behind that show, The Bachelorette. That's my point of contention. It's not about it being Hollywood. It's not about it being created by ABC or anything like that. My contention is the message. As I talked about before, I described and explained my problems and my issues with that program. And that's the key thing. It's not a blanket condemnation of Hollywood.
Like pro black people especially, they love to get all preachy, when it comes to black people celebrating propaganda that they don't like, but they'll accept certain validation from white people if it's something that they enjoy. Hence, the Black Panther, this comic movie, right? Everybody is cheering for this film, black people everywhere, and the men responsible for the comic itself, they're white men. Marvel Studios is owned by white men. Walt Disney owned by white men. Furthermore, I personally don't feel like the imagery is the best promotion for dark-skinned black women. I've already
Now, again, my point is not, this is a complete distortion and going off on a tangent to get into an argument about the Black Panther movie when really that's not the issue. I mean, it is comparing apples to oranges, comparing that show, that piece of trash called The Bachelorette, to a positive image of black people in the movie The Panther, the Black Panther, where you have black people in a highly advanced society, where you have a black superhero, where you have black women heroes, where you have positive images of Africa. You can't compare the two. And, she's trying to draw a comparison simply by the fact that they are both products of Hollywood. And I think that that's a weak comparison. It's a weak analogy. And her point, I'll just briefly address this side issue. Her point about the Black Panther being created by white men. As she points out, the fact of the matter is you have black directors um, in charge of the program, the movie. You have black actors. And one of the recent writers for the Black Panther comic book is a black man, Ta-Nehisi Coates. So I think that, it is just preposterous to compare the two and to draw that analogy. I think the argument is weak as hell.
Why in 2 videos. If you want to know why, go look at those videos. I'm not going to get into that here, but because the director of the movie is black and most of the actors are black and the story is based out of Africa and it represents black militancy and all that stuff, black people are fine with it, and they're jumping up and down about it, and I'm wrong for finding any fault in it whatsoever, and I'm complaining too much and I'm criticizing it too much. But at the end of the day, more money is going to go in white people's hands and black people's hands when it comes to this film. Now,
yeah, it's funny how, she would bring up this point about more money coming into white hands than black hands. I don't hear her making that same argument for this bachelorette program. I don't hear her expressing any concern about the allocation of funds for the bachelorette program. But here you have, she's trying to draw this analogy, so all of a sudden that becomes an issue. And, the fact of the matter is, although Hollywood is going to make a lot of money, and this is a side issue, I just want to address it real quick. The fact of the matter is, you have a black cast that's going to make money off this film. You have black directors that are going to make money off this film. You have black people behind the scenes that will make money off of this film. So, although white people are benefiting, black people are benefiting, but this is just a side issue. It's a distraction to get away from the core point, and that's the negative messaging of this show, The Bachelorette. She would rather talk about anything under the sun to deflect away from that core issue. She would rather talk about the Black Panther movie. She would rather talk about Puffy and all that kind of stuff to detract and to deflect away from this core issue, and that's the messaging of this farce called The Bachelorette.
I'm in no way saying that Black Panther is on equal footing as The Bachelorette, so don't twist my words. But my point is, the film is still something that was given to us by white people. Again, most of the money made from that film is going in the hands of white people.
Again, this whole thing, it was given to us by white people. That is not my point. That is not the point that I made in my video. I never said, well, this is just, my main contention was this was something given to us by white people. I do movie reviews on this channel all the time. I talk about television shows all the time. I talk about music and all that kind of stuff all the time on this channel. My point of contention has nothing to do with something being quote unquote given to us from white people. My problem is the messaging, again, something that this woman doesn't spend time addressing in her video response. I pointed out all the negative aspects of the messaging. She touches on it a little bit, but she doesn't spend a lot of time on it. She would rather talk about all these side issues.
The Black people, including New Possibilities, accepts it as validation. Why? Because it has a strong Black male lead and a Black director and Black actors. But I'm desperate for liking to see a show where a Black woman is the object of desire to success.
You're desperate for accepting a piece of trash as some kind of promotion of desirability of Black women. A piece of trash, for all the reasons I said before. I won't go into it again, but you all get the point. That's the desperation. It doesn't have anything to do with this being something created by Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. Support for a film that promotes positive images of Black people is not some act of desperation. That's something to be commended. Films that promote diverse images and positive images of Black people need to be celebrated, regardless of who is funding them, regardless if the films come from Hollywood or they're independent or if they're produced by a major studio. If the image is positive, if the message is positive, then it should be celebrated. And even you concede that this show, The Bachelorette, is fake. You concede that this show is not necessarily healthy for promoting Black families and a pro-Black agenda. But yet you defend it, yet you endorse it. And that speaks to the desperation that I talked about.
Men, mind you, not just white men, but Black men as well. And New Possibilities also has a recent video about Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy went on Twitter and he shouted out Black women. He said
deflection.
Something about shout out to Black women just because. He said that on Twitter. And New Possibilities is praising Puff Daddy for that. Meanwhile, Puff Daddy's girlfriend is biracial. He also has...
So what his girlfriend is biracial? It's just absurd, the things that people complain about. The fact that his girlfriend is biracial means nothing. The fact of the matter is, in this society, regardless of what people say here on YouTube, on their little YouTube channels, the fact of the matter is the larger society views biracial people as Black. Period. And race is a social construct. And we live within a society that defines biracial people as black, and it treats them as such. And that's just the bottom line. And I know people disagree with me on this. Oh, well. But that's the fact. I mean, if you look at President Obama, they didn't view him as biracial. They viewed him as the first black president. And they treated him as the first black president. You know, the utter disrespect that they regarded that man with, the way they treated that man. Despite his education and all his accomplishments, at the end of the day, he was just another nigger. And I could go through a laundry list of all the things that they did to him, making him produce his papers and all that stuff to prove that he's a United States citizen. You know, calling him a liar in the middle of his State of the Union address. They treated that brother like a nigger. Just like they're treating Colin Kaepernick like a nigger. Just like they treat Sean King, you know, like a nigger. You know, the fact of the matter is biracial people are black, and we need to stop dividing ourselves up into these categories. And I know some people don't like that, but the fact of the matter is we can't afford to be divided up into all these sub-racial categories like they have in South Africa and other places. All that does is weaken the black community, undermine the black community. I mean, by that standard, a great black man like a Frederick Douglass wouldn't be considered black. A great black man like W.E.B. Du Bois would be considered black. So I just think that we need to move beyond the foolishness and the BS. And, you know, I'll proceed a little bit further and I have more commentary on this Puffy thing.
Biracial child. He puts white women and non-black women all over his advertisement for Ciroc. He promotes virtually no black women for Ciroc, let alone dark-skinned black women. So you call me desperate for accepting validation from the Bachelorette, but you accept validation from a man shouting out black women on Twitter when it...
I mean, I think that is a good thing, you know, that a brother shouted out black women on Twitter. I mean, that's something that shouldn't be glossed over and shouldn't be disrespected. I mean, that's the problem with some of our people. I mean, some of our people are never satisfied. Now, your complaints about various ads that this brother has, you know, those are legitimate. You know, that's a legitimate issue. I haven't done all the research on that, but, you know, if what you say is true, that's a valid point. But why can't we appreciate the moment? I mean, why can't we appreciate the good that people try to do, the step forwards that they try to make, instead of looking back and condemning them and not appreciating the good that they are doing? I mean, it's like we have a natural desire to shoot people down, to shoot down anything, including like that Black Panther movie, quick to shoot it down, quick to find fault with it, quick to find fault with a 1.5 minute long trailer, quick to find fault with a brother showing some kind of love for black women. And this is the part of the reason why people have all these stereotypes about some black women. Because it seems like for some of them, they are never satisfied. For some of them, they are looking for an opportunity to break down a black man, to emasculate a black man, to insult a black man, even when a black man is trying to step forward and do something positive. I mean, it's a small symbol of something positive, um, but nonetheless, it's a symbol. You know, it's something positive. You know, this brother's shouting out black women. I think that that small sign of appreciation is better than a show that is designed to promote interracial propaganda at the black man and woman's expense, at the black family's expense.
Other time, that same man is elevating women of other races. So it's very hypocritical. And again, black people, pro-black people especially, like to cherry pick on what crumbs they will accept for validation. So New Possibilities, I'm sorry, you are just as desperate as you claim me to be. You just don't like The Bachelorette because you don't like seeing black women kissing on white men and getting affection from white men. Let's just be honest.
No, that's not what it's primarily about. I explained, you know, what it's about. And do I like seeing a black woman kiss on all these white guys? Of course not. I mean, what kind of message does that send to our young women? What kind of message does that send? And I'm going to go into, some of the issues a little bit later where she talks about this vetting process. I'm tempted to discuss it now, but I'll continue on.
And say what it is that you don't like. Then he mentioned something about, well, at least swirlers are honest about, wanting validation from white men, and they don't make it about black men building, and black men building is a lame excuse. And I'm sorry, but I thought that was the dumbest statement he made in the entire video. First of all, I'm not a swirler, okay, and I'm not a swirler by choice. I don't.
Nobody said that you were a swirler. I never said that you were a swirler. I mean, that's not how you promote yourself, but you acknowledge that you've been in interracial relationships. That's no secret or anything. It's something you regularly discuss. But I didn't describe you as a swirler.
To swirl. My man is black, so it wouldn't validate me or benefit me personally in the least to see Rachel with a white man at all.
That was never my argument. I never said that her being with a white man would benefit you. I mean, you are really not the point of my video. I mean, the point of my video deals with the message. My objection to the message of that program. That's the point of my video. My objection to someone, promoting this as something that black women and girls need to see. That's my objection. It's not about you personally and your own personal dating choices. I have zero interest in that stuff. I don't get my validation from white men or non-black men. So that's not why I like the show. Again, I like the show mainly because I like seeing a smart, successful, feminine, around the way black woman for once as the object of desire. And yes, that is something black women need to see. Okay? Yes, black women need to see the black woman as an object of desire, but is this the kind of image that we want black women to see? And I'm not going to repeat myself, but is this the type of message that we want black women to see? Are we so desperate to have the black woman in an image where she's a object of desirability that we're willing to accept all the baggage that comes along with this fake ass program, this fake reality show?
That it gives black women a case study on how we should and shouldn't vet men, and that's why you.
Now, she says this show gives black women a case study on how we should and should not vet men. Wow. I mean, that's all I can say about that, man. Wow. I mean, now I would emphasize the latter. It gives you a case study of how women shouldn't vet men. Because here you have a situation where this woman chose to vote off a black man before she voted off a Southern racist Lee. And I did a prior video on that. I'll post a link in the cards. Again, she didn't know that he was a racist, but that tells you how faulty her vetting process is. That she would choose a damn racist over a black man. And then, in addition to that, I mean, now that we're speaking about vetting processes, I mean, she voted off a whole crew of black men all at once. Now, some of them, without a doubt, I mean, there were some reasons why some of the people should have been voted off, without a doubt. But you can't tell me that that's a good process when most of the black men are voted off and you only have one black man. You can't tell me that all those black men were so faulty and so lacking that only one of them were qualified to remain in the running. I mean, at that one point, it was like 6 people left and one black guy. When they started off, virtually half and half. I think there was like half and half black men and white men and stuff like that. And then it's narrowed down to only one. And who knows how this show is going to unfold. Who knows what's going to happen? But we'll see. We'll see how solid her vetting is. I mean, you had all these black men, and I just find it, unbelievable that none of these guys, all those black men, professional black men, working class black men, none of them measured up to this woman's standards except for one. And I doubt that he's going to be around at the end. We'll see, though. We'll see.
You have black women all over YouTube talking about it. Like, oh, I wouldn't choose him because of this. I wouldn't choose him because of that. So I think it opens up a good conversation on how we should date. And even though I do feel it's good counter promotion to the IR propaganda directed at black men, for me, it wouldn't matter if all of her options were black men.
Yeah, I mean, if that was the case, we wouldn't even really be having this discussion for the most part. I mean, some aspects of it we may discuss, like how she conducts herself and all that kind of stuff. But we wouldn't be having this discussion if it was all black men in the cast or predominantly black men. I mean, I've seen like little photos from those Bachelorette shows and the Bachelor, and I noticed that like most of the candidates are overwhelmingly white. They don't have a situation where it's half and half. And I think that that's by design. I mean, I think that the fact that you had a, a field of candidates divided almost in half is by design. The fact that all these black men were eliminated is by design, is to perpetuate this interracial relationship propaganda. That's what it's all about.
She would still be the object of desire to successful, well-to-do men. And I just feel like New Possibilities is projecting his issue with seeing a black woman with a white man onto me. But don't put that on me and try to twist my feelings and twist my words, about the show when those are your issues.
Those are your issues. Oh, man. I mean, I can see like the head waving and the fingers snapping and all that other stuff. Those are your issues. No, I'm not projecting. I'm just looking at what you said. I listened to what you said and I provided counter arguments. I didn't like try to psychoanalyze you and all that kind of stuff like you're trying to do me, get inside my head and say I'm projecting. That sounds like language that a psychiatrist would use when talking to a patient or something like that. It's not that serious. I simply looked at what I saw, looked at the arguments being raised, and I voiced my opinion. That's what I did. And most of my opinion was just of the show and your position that this is something that black women need to see. Period. So let's continue on.
Have a white god complex like some of these swirlers on here, and it is possible to enjoy this show without having that. And to
Nobody
say
said
that
it
me
wasn't.
stating, that black men don't build is a lame excuse, it really points to everything wrong with black men. And for New Possibilities to be, a seemingly intelligent guy.
First of all, I mean, she's suggesting that somehow, I'm not in support of black men building and all that kind of stuff, that's not a priority. That's something that I have a passive attitude towards. That is false. I mean, anyone who's followed my channel knows that I talk about the importance of black people building things, establishing their own and all that kind of stuff, doing for themselves and for, trying to change society and all that kind of stuff. If I wasn't about building something, I wouldn't be building my YouTube channel. Although this is on a small scale, in the big scheme of things, it's not that much. But if I wasn't about building, I wouldn't be on here day and night pushing a positive message for my people. If I wasn't about building, I wouldn't have been an activist fighting to improve society. If I wasn't about building, I wouldn't be on here talking about the need for black people to have their own businesses and institutions if I wasn't about building. So I support building. I support that. I embrace it. That's not the issue. The issue is people using this whole thing as an excuse to embrace a program that is detrimental to our community, to the black community, to the black family, to the black man, and to the black woman. That's my problem with you using that as an excuse, saying that because black people, black men haven't built enough. I'm going to cling on to this fake ass reality show as some kind of validation, as some kind of promotion for black women desirability. That's my problem. My problem is not with building, obviously. I embrace that. We need to build. So it's not about me running from the black man's responsibility of building and all that kind of stuff. But let's not use that as an excuse. I mean, and that's what happens. I mean, it kind of reminds me of when someone, when a woman, some women get into an argument, instead of like dealing with the core issues and stuff like that and addressing the issues, what they may try to do is try to break down the man by emasculating him, talk basically saying he's not a man, he's not doing what men should do and all this and that, and that's what this amounts to. Talking about the black man's not building, therefore I'm going to embrace this program where you got all these white men being put in a higher status and all that kind of stuff. And we'll see how the show ends up, but if I was to be a betting man, I would bet that she's going to end up with a white man. And, that's not something that's positive for the black community.
And say something like this, it's a huge red flag, because if he's supposed to be one of the quote unquote good guys and he's still passive about black men not creating counter promotion, to elevate their own women in the media.
I mean, this whole thing about being passive to promote, the black woman in the media. I mean, if people know my channel, they know that I promote positive images and messages of black women. I don't always agree with everything that every single black woman does, just like with this swirling thing, just like with this Bachelorette show. But I promote positive images of black women. I promote positive messaging when it comes to black women. So, I mean, the idea or the suggestion that it's not what I'm about, it's just a misrepresentation of my position. Plain and simple.
Yeah, then it explains why black men will always be at the bottom economically. Okay, if you actually take me saying, hey, I wish, if there was an alternative built by black men to counteract this, but since there isn't, I'm going to enjoy seeing a black woman as the object of desire. If you actually think that's a lame excuse to enjoy the show, then I really question how much you are concerned about black women and our image and our promotion. I question.
See, I mean, basically, I mean, I already went over like the reasons that that I object to this program, but it's like this woman is trying to shift things and basically trying to come up with a way to support her embracing of this program, a program that's detrimental, that promotes negative images and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, again, my issue is not with building. I don't have a problem with building or, promoting the positive messages of black women. Um, that's not my objection. My objection is to that being used as an excuse to justify clinging on to this trash called The Bachelorette. And that brings me to this whole point about being one of the quote unquote good guys. I think that a lot of people have this false perception. They think that if you're a quote unquote good guy, you have to have unconditionally support any and everything that every black woman does. And I know that that's not quite what she said, but that's what it comes down to. When you challenge people on things like the swirling issue or about so-called slut shaming and all that kind of stuff, all of a sudden you're a villain. All of a sudden you're no longer somebody that supports and loves black women. All of a sudden you're the bad guy. And I'm sorry, I mean, that's not, my channel is not a channel that's dedicated to pandering to black women. Unconditionally pandering to any and everything that black women embrace. That's not what my channel is about. I love black women. I respect black women. I cherish black women. But I'm not one of these people who pander and just say what women want to hear. I'm not on here to peddle products. I'm not on here to just make people feel good. I speak from the heart when I come on here, you know, and I take the consequences as they come. I speak truth to power without fear. I don't fear the government. I don't fear how certain people may react to what I have to say. I'm fearless in my message. And I know that some people will not like it. People will condemn me. Some people call me a simp. Some people, stab me in the back and say he doesn't respect black women and all this and that. I'm not on here to tap dance or to dance to anybody's music. I'm on here to speak the truth to power without fear. Hold up, y'all. I'm not done yet. Just a few more minutes. Bear with me.
Enjoy the show, then I really question how much you are concerned about Black women and our image and our promotion. I question how serious you are about Black men mobilizing and doing what they need to do for their community and their women and their children. Again, I keep reiterating that I don't think this is the best look for Black women, but do I think it's a horrible look? No, I don't. And I stand.
Don't think it's the best look for black women, but you say that it's something that black women and girls need to watch. Not just that black women and girls need to watch. You said a lot of black women and girls need to watch this show. A show that you acknowledge is not the best look for black women. How does that make any kind of sense?
Like that. This is a dating show. She's gonna kiss different guys. She's gonna sleep with maybe one or two of them. That kind of thing happens in real life.
She's gonna sleep with one or two of them, or maybe three or four of them. I mean, we're talking about a program that takes place over a 9-week period. Where this woman, it's not like she's just kissing a few people. I mean, she's kissed, I would say it had to be at least 12 guys that she kissed on that show. Kissing multiple guys on the same episode. I mean, come on, man. Not only that, she's laying up with these guys, hugging these guys, all up on these guys, jumping on these guys, in a hot tub with these guys. I mean, come on, man. Is that a good image for a black woman? To be like that, to be telling all these guys she loves them right before she votes them off the show. Is that really a good look for black women? Is it really a good look for a black woman to spend the night with one guy and then the next day be telling other guys how much she loves them? Is that a good look for black women? Does that make black women look fantastic? I mean, help me understand this.
That happen on dating shows when men and women date multiple people. Before they settle down, they kiss more than one person. They sleep with more than one person before settling down.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a 9-week show where this woman is kissing over a dozen people within a short period of time.
Kiss different people. They sleep with different people. Obviously, it's exaggerated on a TV show, but to act like she's some, slut or whore for kissing more than one guy, it's reach.
Nobody said that. Those words didn't come out of my mouth. That's not how I describe this woman. I mean, I know how somebody can reach that conclusion, but that's not the description that I gave of her. I simply talked about the conduct. That conduct is not something that's dignified by any definition.
It's reaching. I wouldn't personally go on a dating show and kiss all those guys in, a week's time or whatever. And yes, I don't find this.
You wouldn't personally do it, but you co-signing this stuff. You're co-signing this foolishness.
to be 100% genuine, but can I enjoy the show for entertainment value and enjoy seeing a black woman being happy and being treated well and being swept off her feet? Yes, I can, and I don't feel there's any harm in that, especially when she's also entertaining black men. And based on my observation, she did give the black men on the show a fair shot, and a black man is still in the running. But just like the IR propaganda,
A fair shot. A fair shot by voting off a whole crew of black men all at once. A fair shot by picking a damn racist redneck over a professional black man. But okay.
directed at black men worked in terms
Man.
of their desirability, but did nothing for the black family. The same thing is happening in reverse, but for black women. And I don't hear you guys complaining about it when the IR propaganda is directed at you.
I mean, clearly you're not familiar with like some of my other video content where I do speak out on those things. I have spoken out on so-called IR propaganda being directed at black men. So that's not an issue with me, but I don't understand how having so-called IR propaganda for the black woman helps the situation at all. All it does is lead to more and more interracial relationships, thereby further undermining the traditional black family.
I didn't hear you say anything in your review about all of the black men on the show that we've seen with white women. You got Peter's black friends who are with white women. You got Rachel's uncle who's with a white woman. So it just sounds to me.
I mean, those are important points. I'm not going to detract from those points. I mean, it's valid, the concern about this woman, about these guys being with these white women, Peter's friends, both of his black friends, both have white women. You have, Rachel's uncle with a white woman. You have, the guy, I think his name is Will, or whatever, who said that in the past he dated primarily white women and all that kind of stuff. And you had that one guy on the very first episode. I think his name is Demario or whatever. He had his white girlfriend show up on the set and all that kind of stuff. I mean, of course, that's problematic. But I mean, Rachel is the key character. I mean, she's the lead character, and that's why the focus is on her. I mean, those points about those other people are valid. But again, I think that all of that is tied in to promote this interracial propaganda, you know, um, to reach the conclusion that we know that this show is heading towards with Rachel marrying a white guy, having a white guy propose to her. That's the direction that the show is heading in. And I hope that I'm wrong.